Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to take a little bit of a look at the pre-release promos from Fusion Strike. It took a while to finally get a look at these, but they are now here. And I'm going to rank them like I always do, but I feel like I need to give you a warning at the outset here. None of these are absolute slam dunk definite best ones, at least from the offset. None of these four I can look at right now and tell you with absolute certainty it's the best of the four, but none of them are bad. Once again, whoever's choosing these pre-release promos has done an excellent job and has gone and picked 4 cards, all of which have a potential to see a bunch of play, and at least some of which I've already seen popping up in winning deck lists over in Japan. So take it with a pinch of salt when I tell you that in at number 4, we've got Pyukumuku, which I'm not entirely sure deserves to be number 4, but I can't justify putting it over any of the others. Now, the attack Knuckle Punch is not good enough to actually get excited about, but the wonderfully named Pitche Pyukumuku ability says that once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in your hand, you may reveal it, put it on the bottom of your deck, and draw a card. Now, it is important to note that no matter how many Pyukumuku you have, this is an ability which is still limited to once during your turn, which is kind of awkward. And I have compared this a number of times to Unknown and Unknown. And what Unknown and Unknown did was that you would essentially put them on your bench and then you would discard them to draw a card. But you could only use it kind of once per Unknown unless you could recover them some way. And you had to have a bench space free in order to use, whereas here you just trade it for a card. And it's a little awkward because it won't stack, but the fact of the matter is, if you're playing a speed deck, or you're playing a deck that doesn't need all 60 cards, this is going to be a really, really good option, and I actually really like it. I don't think it's perfect, like I say, the fact that it's limited to once during your turn really does make it a nice bonus rather than a core part of any draw mechanic, but I could absolutely see 1 or 2 of these making their way into a whole bunch of decks, because at the end of the day, if you make a 58 card deck, and you really don't feel like you need the extra 2 cards, and as weird as it sounds, that does absolutely sometimes happen, then this is essentially just a way of going, well, I drew a card I didn't want, let's go and pop it back in my deck and try and draw a card that I did. Or play a Pokemon search card and give yourself at least a chance of grabbing that special energy or whatever. Far from perfect, but certainly not bad. In at number 3, we've got Oricorio, and once again, I feel bad leaving Oricorio down this low. I should say, by the way, that these images were gotten from Talonite X over on Twitter. And the fact of the matter is, Oricorio is a really good card that I've seen popping up in a bunch of Fusion Strike decks. Now, the attack glistening droplets lets you place 5 damage counters anywhere you like, and to be fair, this is going to see play in Mew v Max decks, so there is absolutely an argument here that, well, Mew, you just put 2 colourless energy on and you can use any of your Fusion Strike Pokemon's attacks on the bench. So you may well end up actually copying this attack with Mew, which is lovely and awesome and brilliant and wonderful and fun. But really it's here for the ability lesson in Zeal, and seriously, some of these ability names lately have been awesome. And all of your Fusion Strike Pokemon take 20 less damage from attacks from your opponent's Pokemon. And not unlike Pyukumuku, this is a once per turn kind of deal. Even if you've got multiple Oricorio out, you're never reducing more than 20 damage. And the question essentially is, how close is your opponent to a KO? Because the fact of the matter is, if you can stop key KOs happening with this ability, it's phenomenal. This is really a doing the maths kind of deal. If there are decks out there that are just getting a KO on you, this is a phenomenal ability which is going to win you games, but you don't want to just pop it down on your bench for the sake of it and waste a bench space. I can absolutely see it seeing a whole bunch of play though, so even though I'm putting it in at number 3, do as I said at the beginning, take it with a pinch of salt, because I still think this is a good Pokemon with a good ability that's going to see a bunch of play. In at number 2, we've got Deoxys, and I really don't know what to do with Deoxys. I think Deoxys could be an absolute gimmicky mess, or it could end up being one of the best cards in the format in terms of tech ability. You see, it is tripping with stamps, because you've got both Fusion Strike, Single Strike, and Rapid Strike typings, and then you've got the Fusion Strike stamp. I kind of wish they'd put that on the other side. It's fun to note that all the others have the stamp on the right-hand side. This is the only one on the left, probably because the entire right-hand side of the card would be copied and taken over and covered with stamps. But I kind of like that, honestly. I like me a good stamp. But the fact of the matter is, this fits into a whole bunch of decks. It can use stuff like Rapid Strike Energy because it is a Rapid Strike Pokemon. It can use stuff like Houndoom to accelerate Single Strike Energy and then get the extra damage from Single Strike Energy because it is a Single Strike Pokemon, and that means that it's going to be able to fit nicely into a bunch of decks. Now, as for the attack, it's 80 damage for free energy, which isn't good. But if there's any Fusion Strike energy attached, you do 160. And then, of course, you are getting a one-hit KO because of weakness on Rapid Strike Urshifu V Max, which, not for nothing, is actually a super relevant Pokemon at the moment that's seeing a bunch of play, if you can do an extra 10. And this is one of my big reservations with Deoxys. Incidentally, Single Strike also has 330. Once you add the 80 because you've got a Fusion Strike Energy, you're doing 160, double with weakness is 320, and really when we're talking about hitting Psychic Weakness at the moment, we're talking about the Urshifu. And you're 10 damage short, and that's not difficult. If you've got a Single Strike Energy on there, you'll get the KO. In a Fusion Strike deck, you can use Power Tablet to do an extra 30 damage, and you are easily getting the KO. You can use Vitality Band. You can use that Inteleon, which is seeing a huge amount of play. We got a lot of ways to do that extra 20 damage at the moment. Or actually only need to do 10. But the fact of the matter is, you need to do the extra damage. And when I'm already getting free energy on there and one of them's a Fusion Strike Energy, you'll have to forgive me for having some slight reservations because actually, it's a little bit awkward. But it still comes in at number 2 because it's Fusion Strike and Single Strike and Rapid Strike and Colorless Energy and hits a good weakness. And at the end of the day, I could see this being teched into a whole bunch of decks. So that means in at number 1, we've got Latias. And look, it's no surprise that Latias is the one I want to pick up. Incidentally, if anyone wants to get a Latias and trade it for whichever one I end up opening, do hit me up, would ya? The fact of the matter is, this is Baby Daisy's Spirit Pokemon. And I'm always going to have a soft spot for Latias because it's Baby Daisy's Spirit Pokemon. But the fact of the matter is, the attack Dyna Barrier is great. 70 damage, and during your opponent's next turn, you prevent all damage done to this Pokemon by attacks from Pokemon V Max. And that is any Pokemon V Max. If your opponent switches their active for another V Max, you're still blocking. And the Fire Psychic Colorless on its own is kind of awkward, but the reality is this is largely going to be used in a Mew V Max deck, and is going to be copied by Mew V Max. And the thing is, because Mew V Max is a box Pokemon by its very nature, Mew always is, this isn't the only attack you're going to be using, but it's a really good option you'll be able to use sometimes. And that's what makes it great. Can be used in other decks, of course. It's a Fusion Strike Pokemon, so it's got all of those tricks, and it does actually have a nice ability that lets you attach a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your Latios, which is lovely. And incidentally, Latios actually has the same ability, but for Latias, so you can get extra energy on. If you're not playing this and just copying it in a Mew deck, you can actually use Latios to attach a Psychic Energy from your hand to one of your Latias in play, which is clearly brilliant. But the fact of the matter is, this is largely going to be good for Mew V Max decks. Although I am prepared for it to be good, I have gone and ordered that lovely deck box and sleeves with the two of them on because, you know, I love them. Mostly Latias. I like this. I do think this is the best of the pre-release promos, and I do think this attack, especially in Mew V Max decks, is going to be really good. But like I said at the beginning, it's very, 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 very close. It would not surprise me at all to see Pyukumuku becoming the most played and best of all of these. This isn't like when Cinderace was a pre-release promo, and as much as I love me some Cinderace, that Cinderace was pretty much a bad card, But then in the same set, in Chilling Reign, we also had Inteleon as a pre-release promo, and it was frankly not even remotely close. There was no world in which you open a Chilling Reign pre-release pack and you wanted Cinderace over Inteleon. Although I say that, I opened 2 Cinderace, and the lovely Primal Lugia messaged me out of the blue asking to trade for Cinderace because loves the artwork. So okay, maybe I was just lying right then. The point is, in Chilling Reign, there was an obvious number 1 in Inteleon and an obvious number 4 in Cinderace. That is not the case in Fusion Strike. I don't think any of these 4 are bad cards, but I don't think any of these 4 are great game-breaking cards like Inteleon. I think Latias has an amazing attack, especially in Mew decks. I think Pyukamuka's ability could see a whole bunch of play. I think Oricorio is going to be great for preventing damage in Fusion Strike decks. And I think Deoxys could be a great tech, hitting a good weakness for colorless energy in a whole bunch of decks. So there we go, ladies and gentlemen. Don't take the ranking too seriously. The analysis here is by far the more important. But now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know what you think about this. I want to know how excited you are about it. Quite frankly, I want to know anything you want to tell me. So go nuts in the comment section, would you? But be nice! And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCG Radio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can do exactly that. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.